So welcome Liliana Ojeda, who is one of Garland's perennials, a regular contributor to the platform, who has two stories to tell us about today. Liliana, welcome. Bienvenido.
Thank you. Gracias. Well, I'm Liliana Ojeda from Santiago, Chile, which is in South America. So I live in the main city of Chile, and I have been here all my life, except for a stay in England for 4.5 years. The rest of my life I've been in Santiago, so I'm a very large city girl. I've been involved with crafts and with contemporary jewelry for quite a while. So I want to present you this article that is called Eyes for Chile, or Ojos para Chile. I wrote this article which is about a collective art project that started at the end of the year 2019, when me and my daughter, Aranda, decided to make a call through social media to make pieces that would represent eyes. And the idea was that everybody could send these pieces to us for a period of time. That time went from 2 months and extended for 1.5 years. Why did we make that call? In October 2019, there was a social outbreak in Chile, started by students first, and then followed by large groups of people who took to the streets to protest for better life conditions. Probably you don't know, but Chile is known as one of the most developed countries in Latin America. And for the last 30 years, it's been politically stable. So nobody imagined that this would happen. The reaction of the government to that revolt was to declare a war on the Chilean population. So instant repression started on the streets. Military forces and police were everywhere, and high command of the state gave instructions to the police to shoot on the face of people. The result of that was an alarming number of victims from eye trauma and a lot of loss of eyes. Only in the first 60 days of the outbreak, there was 354 cases that had already been reported. And the number were increasing. And it was on that moment when we thought with my daughter of doing something to show our concern and our repudiation to this systematic plan of punishment. Most of the victims were innocent young girls and boys. More than victims, they were survivors of a state violence. We wanted to build a piece of art where lots of people could be involved. So we set the dimensions of the pieces and make this idea public or on social media, Instagram mainly. After a year, we had enough pieces to build a canvas. But we didn't want to do this alone. So we went to a very busy street on the center of Santiago, and we put a black canvas, and we put all the pieces on a box and made people to get involved with the work so they could pick up a piece, ask about it, and then decide where it will be on the canvas. We continued with the call later on. We managed to donate the piece to the Museo de la Memoria, or the Memory Museum in Santiago. So that kind of closed the stage by, we made a launch on the museum, and we finally gathered 305 pieces, and they rest all together in this 2 by 1 meter black canvas. We had a very touching lunch that day because we could share this artwork with two of the survivors from this state violence, Nicole Cram and Fabiola Campillay. This last one was recently elected Senator of the Republic by 275,000 people voting for her, the highest number of all the candidates for that position. Eyes for Chile is then a work that brings back all the eyes that are gone by weaving a web of glances or hungry eyes that take the form of the nightmare, that the power for fear, the dream of the awakened people who rise to create a more just world. And in the other hand, I also submitted this other text that is not mine. This is written by Catalina Mena. She's a Chilean journalist and curator. And we asked her to write for us about this work that we made this year with the help of a fund from the government in Chile. So this article written by Catalina Mena, who couldn't, unfortunately, she couldn't be here, is about a work that I'm directly involved in with a friend. Is like a collective work because it is made by 3 artists, really. It's Clarisa Mentellaga, me, Liliana Ojeda, and also Paulina Villalobos, who is a light designer. It is a very ambitious work of art made in this collective way. We thought about it with my colleague Clarissa when we were in a workshop and we were giving these instructions to give shape to a number of concepts that we were working about, even some poems. And we suddenly discovered that our works and our materials clicked or somehow speak to each other the same language. So we started to meet and to build this idea of something else that we could do together. So this work came as a need of making something bigger and something that will come off from the body. We are used to make contemporary jewelry, so everything goes and it is thought to be worn on the body. But this time we wanted to make something for the space. And we were a long time making work in a very isolated way because of pandemic. So I worked in my home, Clarissa worked in her home, but we knew that we were going towards the same direction. So we made like a couple of meetings just to see the improvement of the work. And the real magic moment was when we put together everything and we hung it on the gallery. And my work and Clarissa's work again happened the same, that they talk to each other and they work really well together. So and then we had this third person who made the lighting, and when we put everything together and then we actually illuminate the work, it really exceeded our expectations, because there was this cycle of light, color light, that was changing in 7 or 8 minutes. You could see very different colors on the work. So it seemed like the work was changing all the time. And why did we make this work? First, we wanted to work with biodegradable materials. We didn't want to to collapse more this world with things that will not disappear quickly. So we decided to work only with seaweed, with cotton thread, with corn textiles, with fruit peels, etc. If all this work would go to the sea, it will disappear quite fast because it is a biodegradable piece of art. And we've been spending some time studying our materials and the way we could make them flexible and appropriate for an installation. So it's not something that is going to be gone tomorrow, but it will probably last the same time as we as humans last in this world, no longer than that. We are not looking for something that will stay in the world forever. So it's like a small contribution to be aware of what's going on with the world, and also to relate with materials in a very different way from what we're used to.
Well, thank you so much, Liliana, for two very poignant, very moving stories from Chile. Very much appreciated. And now we move to Ecuador. Berenice, welcome. Thank
Hi,
you. Where are
thank
you
you.
now?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Berenice Cardenas, and I am from Cuenca, Ecuador, and I am in Cuenca now. Well, Cuenca, I think it's the prettiest city in Ecuador because it's a mix of colonial architecture, French architecture, and also some indigenous ruins from the Inca time, which is lovely for tourism. Plus, you know, here in this city, there's the CDAP, which is the Centers for Folk Arts of America. You know, so we have a lot of handicrafts, we have a lot of art. So it is a unique city, and I'm happy to be back here because I've been living out of here, you know, more than 25 years. So I'm practically a citizen of the world, but I'm happy to be back because of the pandemic and because of some other things that happened lately. And well, my article is the Macanas of Wallaceo. It's about the textile technique worldly known as the ikat, which is from Southeast Asia, basically. Well, what motivated my idea, you know, about this article was that, first of all, you know, colonial art lately is not much appreciated. And you know that here in Ecuador, Quito, and so is Lima, we produced a very, very important amount of art during the colonial era. Quito and Lima were the centers, and of course, Mexico, the centers for not only painting, sculpture, religious art, but also textiles. So my idea was, you know, that these colonial origins of this textile cloth, you know, this shawl, was visible to the world because no one talks about this shawl here and about its Asian origins. People get really confused, you know, and they think it's indigenous from here, it's native to Ecuador. But of course, it's legitimate to Ecuador now because they've been making this cloth for centuries, but its origins are in the colonial times. And this cloth, this technique, as you can see, the way, you know, it's very Asian. It came through the Philippines and the Spanish colonies there in Southeast Asia, through Mexico, and then from Mexico to South America. most of it disappeared, but somehow in two tiny towns here in our province, which are Bulkai and Bulshun, it's been surprisingly, found this cloth magically, it has survived centuries of changes and, the mix of cultures. It is a really, a truly amazing fact that these towns, very little towns, have preserved the original techniques with very little variations, adapted to the local needs and some contributions. But the technique and the designs remain practically the same as they used to do it in the colonial era. This cloth is very fine work. We have amazing artisans here in the province, and they've been recognized by UNESCO worldwide. But my idea was to remark its Asian origins and how the transference of cultures and these how would I say, these just all of a sudden, reappearance of this technique in our land, which is from Asia originally, it's an amazing fact. This is what I can tell you about my article. I truly love textiles. It is one of my favorite handicrafts. I research a lot about it. I like to also to knit, and I like to visit the weavers,
Well,
whether they use looms or they are in the countryside. And, we don't really know if during the Inca era or our Aboriginal cultures had this technique. We suppose they didn't. Of course, they had textiles, but this technique came directly from Southeast Asia through the Spanish colonies.
well, Berenice, thank you so much for sharing
Yeah.
this story with us, and welcome to the Garland platform. And I certainly encourage everyone
Thank you.
to read your article to
Thank
get
you.
more details. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Liliana and Berenice, and we hope to share with you the recording of the launch so you can meet the other contributors.